Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the historic Linwood Cemetery in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. In our first visit, we saw the grave or cenotaph of the infamous Doc Holliday. Today we are back again for another legendary figure of the Old West. And as you may have already seen, it is on the infamous outlaw, Kid Curry. You can see a base to a monument right there. The top of it is gone. And there's trails going everywhere to visit the other graves within this cemetery. And they've got a flag up there. I don't see a light on it or anything, so that's kind of interesting that there's no light. A couple graves right here on the edge. Last name Ward. We have 1854 to 1889. Mother and father. And then the father is 1850 to 1887. Quite a few graves in this cemetery. A lot more than I originally thought. This one, the mother died in 1928, Nettie Laura. She was born in 1876. The father has no name or date of death. Last name is Smith. And you can see right down through here, there's part of the town parking lot down through there. It is a serious hike to this cemetery, but well worth it. And there's a lot of graves to visit in here. Love the iron fence work that you're seeing in the cemetery. This looks like another little child. Don't know for sure. Bottle of liquor down there. Cow in there for some reason. And a cross. I do not see a name though. This is Rhetty, 1885 to 1931. This is just kind of some simple piping, like plumber's piping or something. Tim Nillen, 1838 to 1915. And then kind of a weed growing there naturally. Love the fence work though. So the last name Reynolds. And then we have, this one is 1899, McPherson. And we got a footstone right over there and a funeral home marker. Pretty neat. Let's see what this one is. Walsh. Mary Kay, 1867 to 1920, and John Kay, 1857 to 1920. Passed away the same year. And then Mary Kay Walsh right there. So good breeze up here, thankfully, because it was quite a hike. And this is I think we saw it was like, what was it, 89 degrees out? Something like that, but it's a dry heat. A lot of graves to visit. There's one that's kind of over on its side in this little iron gate area. Mother Annie B. Sharp, 1848 to 1921. That looks to be like it could be another young one. Headstone marker's broken. We got W.E. Hughes, 1870 to 1930. There's another one over there, a bigger one. Looks like Meadows, and that's Meadows right there, R.M. Meadows. It says 1860, but the date of death has broken off. Another old monument back up and through there in the middle. When we first got here, there wasn't anyone else. And there's been some other people that made the trek up the hill. I started filming, and I was ahead of somebody. And then they passed me up, and then we passed them up on the trail. And Sarah has a hurt toe, so it's quite a trek. McIntyre. The place that would normally have the date of death and birth and name and stuff is missing on this. So there's three sides of it missing and that side's blank. Another gated area there. See if we see a marker. A lot of these are from a 1920 time period. I do not see a marker in here. It might be just covered up with leaves. Christina Miser, And she died December 1st, 1891, age 79 years old. Yeah, 1914 there for William Fay. We'll go up here and we'll see Kid Curry. It's definitely a well-traveled cemetery with all these trails like this, don't you think?
Yeah.
People been all around here and wore ruts in the ground. Let's see who this big one is here. Here's a government marker, so this is going to be someone that was in the service. Let's see what this says. Got a flag there. Joseph B. Hayes, Pennsylvania, Private 5th U.S. Cavalry, January 5th, 1938, looks like. That's a Walter Jones. And 1888 looks like. This one has broken. Has a large flat marker in the upright marker. Looks like Patrick John Arthur Seller, eldest son of Thomas Seller of Bagshot, England, and died September 22nd, 1887, age 28. And his wife Ella Byrne Seller died June 30th, 1888, age 22. And their child, I guess. Pretty interesting. Another flat one, large upright. Let's see what this large one here is. I don't know if this means that there could be more here, or just to try to keep you on the trail, because there's one here. I don't know. This is Schwartz, and I don't see any names other than the Schwartz. Okay, here. Louisa Schwartz, 1856 to 1932. Jacob C. Schwartz, 1847 to 1929. There's rocks on top of these, so, and then with the name it makes me think that they're Jewish. So Louis Schwartz, 1854 to 1917. Just kind of give you a pan of the cemetery here. It is interesting. There's borders around some and fences around others. Got some trails going off that way, so I don't know if it's from game, because they said that there would be bears, and there's deer, or if it's leading to other graves. We'll see what this sign is. We came in over here, not the actual entrance. There was kind of a path to the side. We cheated a little bit, but really that's probably less steep than where we came in at. Okay, this is talking about a potter's field that's in here. Linwood's Potter's Field. And then it's also talking about the debate on whether or not he is or isn't in here. So this is just kind of a rocky, dirty, sandy path going up through here. Well traveled. Lots of footprints in here from sneakers. So going up this hill, there are more graves through here. See a Shrinkle and a Gibson, and then an arrow saying to the right for Kid Curry. Just follow the arrows. The trail keeps going up there, so there could be more graves. We're not going to be going up there. We're just here to see Kid Curry. And here we go, right here close. Harvey A. Logan, Kid Curry, 1867 to 1904. And then they've just sort of placed these rocks as a border around his grave. It's a little border though. He would have been bigger than that. So they placed rocks on top of his memorial marker. And Kid Curry part's kind of in some Old West font there. Got some glasses up there. I'm not sure what the significance of that is. There's coins, which I expected. And it's funny because on both of these graves I expected to see some shells and even some chipping. I don't really see that. And then there's a sign here that says Kid Curry, Harvey Logan. There's a photo of him up on the right. And then this is him down here as part of the Wild Bunch with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So we'll show his grave here and tell a little history. Harvey Alexander Logan was better known as Kid Curry, and he was born in 1867 in Tama County, Iowa, to Eliza and William Logan. He was the third of 6 children. Following the death of his father, his mother moved the family to Dodson, Missouri. In 1876, their mother died, and the kids lived with their aunt and uncle. Harvey soon moved to Texas with his 3 brothers, where he started breaking in horses for a living. Around this time, he befriended a man named Flat-Nosed George Curry. Harvey and his brothers took his last name. In 1894, Harvey and his brothers Johnny and Lonnie were homesteading on a horse ranch in Chateau County, Montana. On October 2, 1894, Harvey and Johnny, along with their brother-in-law Lee Self, got into an altercation with a neighbor named James Ross. Harvey then found himself charged with assault with a deadly weapon. This was the beginning of the outlaw ways. Next, a miner named Pal Pike Landusky attacked Harvey because he had believed he had been romantically involved with his daughter. Harvey beat him up, and Landusky filed assault charges against him. The judge set a trial date but released him because he felt Harvey acted in self-defense. Harvey then ran into Landusky in a local saloon, and their dispute quickly led to a fistfight. Harvey walked away, but Landusky pulled a gun on him even though he was unarmed. His brothers quickly gave him a pistol, and a gunfight erupted. Landusky's gun jammed, and Harvey shot him in the head. Harvey then fled the area, believing that he would not get a fair trial. Landusky's daughter was indeed pregnant, but it turned out to be Harvey's brother Lonnie who was the father. With the law on his tail, he fled to New Mexico, where he rode with the Black Jack Ketchum gang. When he returned to Montana, he had heard that a friend of Landusky's named James Winters wanted to get the reward for his bounty. Harvey and his brothers Johnny and Lonnie caught up with Winters on his ranch and shot him dead. Harvey and Lonnie returned to New Mexico, once again teaming up with the Black Jack Ketchum gang. Following a train robbery, the brothers argued with Thomas Black Jack Ketchum over the loot, and the pair left the gang. It wasn't too long before Harvey started another gang that included his brother Lonnie, Tom O'Day, Walt Putnam, and his old friend George Curry. In April of 1897, Harvey was involved in killing Deputy Sheriff William Dean of Powder River, Wyoming, when the gang was rustling horses. A few months later in June, Harvey and his gang robbed a bank in South Dakota. The outlaw Tom O'Day was captured after his horse got spooked and ran away. The others escaped, but were soon found in Fergus County, Montana. A gunfight broke out, and Harvey was shot through the wrist and captured. Walt Putnam and George Curry were also apprehended. They were all taken to Deadwood, South Dakota, and placed in jail, but they escaped on October 31, 1897. On June 14, 1898, Harvey joined the Sundance Kid and Flat-Nosed George Curry in the robbery of a South Pacific train in Humboldt, Nevada. The gang only made out with $450. On June 2, 1899, the Wild Bunch gang robbed a Union Pacific Railroad train near Wilcox, Wyoming. A shootout happened between the gang and the trailing posse, which killed Sheriff Joe Hazen. The gang escaped and took cover in the hole-in-the-wall hideout on the Colorado-Utah border. Pinkerton detective Charles Siringo was tasked with bringing in the outlaw gang. Harvey, Butch Cassidy, and several others went to New Mexico. On July 11, 1899, Harvey, Elza Lay, and Sam Ketchum robbed a train near Folsom, New Mexico. A posse led by Sheriff Ed Farr followed them, and the gang killed the sheriff and wounded his deputy, Henry Love. It also wounded Elzy Lay and Sam Ketchum. Harvey and Butch Cassidy escaped. Harvey fled to San Antonio, where he was hanging out in Fanny Porter's brothel. There he met Della Moore, better known as Annie Rogers. The two had an affair that would last over the next several years. On February 28, 1900, when lawmen attempted to arrest Lonnie Curry while visiting his aunt in Dodson, Missouri, he was killed in a gunfight. 2 months later, Harvey's friend Flat-Nosed George Curry was shot and killed while he was rustling cattle in Utah by Sheriff Jesse M. Tyler. In March, Harvey and Will Carver were recognized in St. John's, Arizona after passing notes from the Wilcox robbery. Deputies Andrew Gibbons and Frank LeSueur caught up with the outlaws on March 28th, and the outlaws shot them dead. In New Mexico, Sheriff George Scarborough and cattleman Walter Birchfield began to follow them. On April 5th, they ambushed them, wounding Birchfield and killing Scarborough. Harvey then set his sights on the men who killed his friend, flat-nosed George Curry. In Utah, he killed the Grand County Sheriff John Tyler and his deputy Sam Jenkins. Harvey then rejoined the Wild Bunch, and on August 29, 1900, the gang robbed a train near Tipton, Wyoming, taking $55,000. Afterward, the gang split up, with Harvey and Ben Kilpatrick heading to Fort Worth, Texas. The following year, several of the members of the Wild Bunch met up in Hell's Half Acre in Fort Worth, Texas. While there, Harvey, Will Carver, Butch Cassidy, Ben Kilpatrick, and the Sundance Kid made the mistake of posing for a portrait. The Pinkertons soon learned about the photograph, and it found its way onto wanted posters across the nation. In April of 1901, William Carver was ambushed by Sheriff Elijah Bryant and his deputies at Sonora, Texas, and was shot. 3 hours later, he died from his wounds. Harvey and several other Wild Bunch members returned north, and the gang robbed a Union Pacific train near Wagner, Montana on July 3, 1901. They made off with $40,000. The gang split off in separate directions, but Harvey was not finished with his revenge. On July 26, 1901, he shot and killed Jim Winters, who had killed his brother John back in 1896. Harvey also killed 2 Knoxville, Tennessee policemen, William Dinwiddle and Robert Saylor, when they tried to apprehend him. He then returned to Montana despite being pursued by law enforcement. On November 30, 1902, Harvey was back in Knoxville, Tennessee, and was captured in a pool hall after a lengthy physical fight with lawmen. He was only convicted of robbery because no witnesses would come forward and testify on the murders of the policemen. He was sentenced to 20 years in hard labor and a $5,000 fine. On June 27, 1903, Harvey escaped. A year later, he participated in the robbing of the Denver and Rio Grande train near Parachute, Colorado on June 7, 1904. 2 days later, a posse caught up with the outlaw, and in the confrontation, Harvey was wounded. However, rather than go to prison, he took his own life. He was 37 years old when he died on June 9, 1904. During his lifetime, Harvey Logan, or Kid Curry, was wanted for 15 murders, but some think he killed more than twice that number, although historians believe it was more like 9. William Pinkerton, head of the Pinkerton Detective Agency, called Kid Curry the most vicious outlaw in America. He once said, "He has not one single redeeming feature. He is the only criminal I know who does not have one single good point." Now, there are some long-standing rumors that this is not even Kid Curry in this cemetery and that he was misidentified. Some believe that Curry departed for South America with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's another one of those Old West mysteries that we may never know the answer to. Like I said, the trails go in all sorts of directions. They go down that way in several directions, and then they go up there. I can see a funeral home marker here that's been shot. A couple others in through here, 3 of them to be exact. And you can see the bullet holes. There's one right there even. But someone's been shooting at those. And I don't know, they may have replaced Kid Curry's memorial marker too, because it looked newer. And you can see where they've shot at that David Brousseau right there. So that's horrible in my opinion, no matter who these guys were, or who you think they were, or what they did. You just need to be left alone. Louis Britton, 1902 to 1951. I think 1951 is one of the newest ones we've seen in here. And a couple more markers over there, and another funeral home marker that's been shot at. And then they got some of their fencing right over here. But there's really no telling where other graves are at in this cemetery. So now we start our downhill hike. It's going to be a lot better than going up. It is warm out here in the trees, but there's a light breeze. And biggest hazard is these little flat stones here that they placed on the trail to keep it from withering away. But it's still just an incredible view up here. Haven't seen any wildlife. A couple birds, that's it. No squirrels, no deer, no bear, anything. Too hot for them maybe up here.
Better not see any bears. I can't run.
Yeah, I don't want to see bears anyways, because I think we're so worn out from coming up here. We can't run very fast. Plus, Sarah has the hurt toe. But it is an incredible view up here. You can see part of the cemetery right over there. That's what we already walked through. And Kid Curry's more up the hill. And then once you get in here in the cemetery for Doc Holliday, you walk a little bit further down that way. All you have to do as soon as you come in this gate right here, not much of a gate, but the entrance, is just follow the arrows right here. Doc Holliday to the left, Kid Curry to the right. Okay, so this is right at the entrance where we didn't come in, but where you should come in. And 1986 right there, 1922 to 1986. Jack Sidwell. Could be Tidwell. I think that's maybe a T. Font's a little difficult. But yeah, interesting cemetery. Bigger marker, a little marker there in a bigger plot area, which is kind of some garden fencing. Quite a few in there to see. That's going to do it for our little cemetery visit as we took a closer look at Kid Curry and Doc Holliday. I hope you enjoyed our little visit, and we'll see you guys next time.